All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we discuss making the clinical and economic case for adding laser dentistry and same-day dentistry to your practice. My name is Adam, Content Marketing Specialist with Schein, and I'll be your moderator. I am pleased to be joined by Jim Philhower and Tarah Grauer. Jim and Tarah are Schein practice development coaches, and they will also be joined by Michael Poro, who is the East Regional Vice President of Sales for Convergent Dental. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that tonight's webinar is being recorded and everyone will receive the link of the recording in the next week. If you have questions for the speakers, please type them into the Q&A section and we will answer them live at the end of the presentation. This webinar is presented by Schein Dental Business Institute and no CE credits are being offered. I would like to now turn it over to our speakers. Take it away, Jim.
Hi, Adam. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to speak to all the doctors, team members, and Schein team members that are on our call here this evening. As Adam said, we get the opportunity to work with and coach a lot of dentists throughout the United States. Myself, Tarah, and Michael as well, certainly. And in these times that we're in, and by the way, we certainly want to hope that everybody on here, your teams, families, and everybody is doing as well as possible in these crazy times that we are in. And in these times, we have a lot of offices that are looking for ways to increase productivity, profitability, increase new patient flow within the practice, recoup some of the costs that were lost in anywhere between those 6 and 8 weeks of non-production when our offices were closed down, and reduce stress and increase efficiencies in the practice. And that is really the crux of what we want to talk about today, really in a nutshell. To tee up really what Tarah and Michael are going to go into greater detail about is going to be the opportunity to have the space to be able to work in. What our friend Dr. Charles Blair termed years ago, the Unbooked Operatory. In coaching, when working with so many dentists around the nation, we would say probably at least 3/4 of the dental practices in the United States don't have enough operatories within the practice. When we look at the active patient count, we look at new patients flowing into the practice, hygiene counts, both preventative and perio counts, not to mention the other procedures that could be done if we have the operatory available to be able to put the patients in and move our schedule around to fit. Many offices throughout the United States have an operatory that's plumbed but not equipped. I think most of the dentists that are on here on our webinar, many of you, I'm sure, probably most of you have built offices. And what we found over the years is that if we build an operatory out, if we build a building out for maybe 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 operatories, everybody knows, let's go ahead and get the plumbing run. Let's go ahead and get it all put together in order to be able to outfit the 5 or 6 operatories that we need to have to start. And we'll outfit or we'll equip the other operatories mañana, down the road, another time. What ends up happening in a lot of cases, though, is that those operatories end up not being equipped and end up storing files, cleaning supplies, you pick it, cotton rolls, bibs, cups, and gloves, and 2x2s, unfortunately. Many offices also have a space that can be repurposed for another operatory if we just took more of a critical look at what the spacing is within the practice. And as I mentioned kind of as a lead in here, as many offices are looking for ways to grow, offer a different patient experience, comfort, convenience, reduce stress, and recoup the lost revenue due to the coronavirus craziness that we find ourselves in. Adding an additional operatory is one of the best ways that you do have to decrease stress and increase productivity within the practice. It allows the office to work in the extra appointments that take just a few minutes, whether that's suture removals or denture checks, additional x-rays, or anything else. Rather than what most offices do is just try to wedge the patient in between there somewhere, which ends up running behind into lunches, work through the end of the day, again, creating a lot of stress for the teams. Without the extra operatory, those appointments can ruin on-time performance and schedule flow. One of the number one things that you can do to market your practice, doctors and team members, is to, of all things, run on time. It really doesn't matter if it's the senior executive for a Fortune 500 company or the air quotes here, busy soccer mom. All of our patients today expect us to run on time more so than ever in the past. And they feel like they showed up on time and they should be seen on time within the practice. Certainly emergencies can be seen more efficiently We don't have to block out separate times to see the emergencies during the day if we do have the extraoperatory to be able to see the patient when they are in pain and can get them in right away rather than maybe having to wait until an afternoon when we've got an appointment open for them. And if the doctor or the hygienist is running behind, again, the next patient can be seated on time, because that's generally how they feel like they were seen on time. They can be seated for a 2 o'clock appointment at 1:59 and the doctor not come in until 2:10. That's okay. They felt like they were seated and they were seen on time. Doctors will be able to provide simple operative additional services, to the patients to increase the productivity and profitability. The huge component to having the extraoperatory is you don't have to rebook the patients for same-day dentistry. We're not having to reschedule, to meet, to greet, to electronically file another form, and it greatly reduces the cost of infection controls, PPE, which we're all facing today in terms of the additional costs there. And the truth of the matter is that same-day dentistry, doctors and team members, is truly about 90 to 95% pure profit to the practice. Because for all the reasons that are on this slide, we're not getting the patient back in, back out, taking care of finances. We're simply adding additional services to the same visit that the patient is already there to be seen for. Those same-day services are certainly going to include the laser technology and that both Tarah and Michael are going to get into right here in a second. And for those of you that already have CAD/CAM full mill systems, the opportunities there. And for the doctors who don't have yet CAD/CAM and full systems within the practice, down the road, if you're ever thinking about it, add it in, have the extraoperatories there available is a great adjunct to be able to have the CAD/CAM systems that are there. What we're really talking about here when we talk about laser technology and CAD/CAM, yes, it increases efficiencies. Yes, it increases profitability, pure production within the practice. That's all true. But really, the number one thing that it truly does for the patient is the patient experience, comfort, convenience for the patients, which increases the internal marketing and word of mouth around your practice out within the communities. If you have an assistant that's down, maybe somebody is we're just down an assistant that day, or down maybe an assistant or two that particular day for whatever reason, it allows another assistant to kind of catch up later, if you will, if I have the extraoperatory. If you have a rover that's working the front desk, working sterilization, working chairside as well, it certainly allows her to be able to maximize efficiency and turn the operatories over when it's convenient to be done. And also, it greatly reduces downtime in terms of any equipment failures that can be minimized along the way as well. With that and those thoughts, I'm sure some of you are thinking, yeah, Jim, I know those things. Or, hey, Jim, you pointed out and reminded me about a lot of the things within the additional operatory and same-day dentistry. And it would help with scheduling. It would help in terms of lowering the stress, with my team and what we're doing day in, day out, and the overall patient flow and comfort and convenience. However, Jim, there is this one little thing, cost. It's not free. I'm sure Henry Schein is not going to give me that operatory. And it's true, the extraoperative equipment is not free. We can start to look at how easy it could be to be able to afford that extraoperative equipment. I like to tell my friend dentists and certainly other dentists that we work with and coach throughout the United States and in seminars that we give, doctor, benevolent, kind soul that I am. If I gave you an operative equipment, if I simply said, there you go, Christmas is coming up in a few months, if I gave you the operative equipment, would you work in it for 1 hour a week? Just 1 hour a week. Sure, every one of you could find an hour a week to work in this brand new operatory of equipment. Say the operatory cost is $30,000, and that's going to be close, $30,000-ish for the additional operatory. A 5-year payment on that $30,000 of equipment, doctors, is going to be roughly $600 a month. Now, I'm sure every dentist on this webinar today produces more than $500 an hour. Let's just say your production is only $500 an hour and you work 1 hour a week or 4 hours a month. That's $2,000. If I took my 1 hour a week multiplied by the 4 weeks, it's $2,000 a month. We do have to make the monthly payment of $600, but as we can readily see, that still nets us $1,400 a month or approximately $17,000 a year in increased production in the practice after we make the payment if we only work in the operatory 1 hour a week. Kind of wrap up my thoughts before I turn it over to Tarah, is that the additional operatory is really, doctors and team members, one of the best ways that you have to decrease stress, to increase efficiencies within the practice, increase production, profitability. As we said, the same-day dentistry component of this is 90 to 95% profit, and certainly the overall patient experience, comfort, and convenience within your practice. Having said that, let's find out how we're going to fill up that additional operatory. I want to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Tarah Grauer. Tarah is a 360 practice development coach based out of Florida. She also is a hygienist and many hours coaching dentists and working clinically within the offices. So Tarah, take it away.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, like Jim mentioned, the majority of my background is clinical. A lot of time spent chair side, working with patients, reviewing, clinical care, and also, the patient comfortability, like we were talking about, really getting the patient to a place where they enjoy coming to the dentist. So being able to take all of the information that we now have on Henry Schein's side and mirror that with the clinical patient experience has been great. So like Jim had mentioned, we did talk about COVID, right? And what has been going on around us, all of the noise, the shutdown, and what we've been up against and what we're facing, what we're combating as we get back to work. So just looking at, the noise that's around us right now, obviously we were in a space pre-COVID where we were heavily reliant on PPOs. It's a big topic, comes up a lot. And now more than ever with your patients and friends and colleagues losing jobs or transitioning, PPOs have become even more of a hot topic. So we want to make sure we're paying attention to that and looking at the things that we're talking about today so we don't become so dependent on those plans. New protocols, PPE expenses, we know it's been crazy out there. We're feeling it too. It's just, the supply chain's been manic and we're doing the best we can to keep up with it and keep our patients healthy. And then dealing with the fear from our team members, the fear from our patients, and trying to make up for that lost time. The good news is that all of that is doable and we can overcome it, and we have the tools and we have, the equipment and what's necessary to get you guys to where you need to be. The main thing is just understanding the numbers and understanding where you're at and where you were and where we need to go. And in order to do that, we have to focus on a few different things. So I looked at the target matrix. So post-COVID, as we started getting back to work, looking at it from a clinician, looking at it from a patient standpoint, what do we need to do? And also what can we do from a business standpoint so we can be effective, profitable, and continue to move forward. So looking at your active patient number and your active patient value is crucial. We want to know how many patients we have and what is the actual value attached to that active patient. And then we want to look at the chair time. Our patients are a little afraid, they're a little fearful. So we want to make sure that while they're in the chair, in the dental chair, that we're doing everything that we can to maximize that appointment so that they don't have to come back. But while we're doing that, we want to make sure that that chair time's limited as well. So yes, we want to consolidate appointments, but we don't want that appointment to be 8 hours. We still want to keep it minimal. So when we look at the technology and what's out there, what we can utilize to mirror this matrix and change the patient experience, I usually push towards, obviously, same day dentistry. But looking at the Soleil laser has been a huge asset. Working with different doctors, one specifically in Orlando, who purchased the laser prior to COVID, really was in a good space once all of this transpired to be able to utilize, market, and really get the patients the education around how effective this laser is and how much safer their appointments are. And like we said, the patient experience. Minimal pain, basically pain-free, additional services. So it's been a huge asset. So when we look at rebranding your practice and changing that experience, this one tool came to mind often in the conversations. So when we look at your increased active patient value, so knowing your active patient's huge. We always talk about grabbing a practice analysis through Henry Schein. If you haven't heard of one, or if you haven't had one done, I highly recommend you reach out to your Henry Schein consultant. Send us an email, we'll connect you, we'll get it done. But your active patient number is the crucial number of your practice. Jim will always talk about it. I know Dr. Blair talks about it as well. That's really how we know how we're going to grow our practice. What are we going to do? Do we need an associate? Do we need another hygienist? Do we need that unbooked operatory? All of that is around your active patient value and your active patient number. So how do we increase the value? Obviously, the easiest way is to increase your fees, right? So we just collect more money. Awesome, done. But that's not as easy as it sounds, especially if we're tied to PPO plans. So we want to make sure that we're monitoring the adjustments. We want to decrease some of those adjustments. We want to make sure we're using the right codes. We want to make sure that we're maximizing our reimbursement. When we look at those codes, we want to make sure that they're correct. So we use our top 25 procedure mix, which also comes out of the practice analysis. So when we look at that coding, we want to make sure, okay, which ones are we using the most of? Which ones can we leverage? How can we get some better reimbursement? How do we schedule to those codes? That top 25% or that top 25 procedure page is huge. Again, coming out of the practice analysis. And then we want to increase case acceptance. We want our patients to say yes. So like Jim mentioned, what's the easiest way to do that? If we have the patient in the chair today, it's 100% ROI, right? Because we didn't even have to tell them. We were like, hey, are you snoring? You want to have this procedure done? Great. Here we go. 5 minutes later, wife's happy. So we get all of these added resources, added procedures, and we get patients saying yes. We change the experience, and then also reducing the attrition and attracting new patients. It's a huge marketing tool. It keeps patients happy. It keeps them coming back, and then they keep talking about you and sending in new patients. It's the magic that we're all looking for in today's world. So reduction in patient appointments, doing more full mouth dentistry, 4-quadrant dentistry. I was a huge advocate to the clients I was working with as we came out of COVID to, again, reduce patient appointments, get patients healthy. Now more than ever, patients want to be healthy. So we have to use this to our advantage. We have to make sure that we're communicating everything we've been trying to get our patients to understand for the last, forever, basically. We want them to understand that, hey, dentistry is important. It is related to your overall health. So let's make sure that we're getting you cavity-free, you're disease-free, that your mouth is situated and healthy, and we're maintaining so that we can reduce your risk for developing anything else. So doing 4-quadrant dentistry, having the tools to be able to do that. So no anesthesia, huge benefit. We're able to do more than we typically could in one sitting. You'll always hear Jim and I preach about the intraoral camera. If you don't have one in every operatory and you don't have every one of your team members using it in that operatory, it's going to be a huge disadvantage. That intraoral camera sells dentistry. When I was practicing, I picked it up as I was reviewing medical history. It was always in the patient's mouth. They were looking at their teeth while I was asking them how the wetting was and how things are feeling. So that intraoral camera gives them an idea of what they've been doing over the last 6 months and gives them their own opinion, which is always helpful when we're trying to sell a treatment plan. Case acceptance, increase it by 10% in $1 million practice, that's $100,000. 10% is huge. If you're at 30% case acceptance, I'm not asking you to get to the gold standard of 80 in 2 months. I'm just asking you to increase it 10%. In those increments, if you're measuring it, watching it, you're destined to add more money. You're bound to add more money to your top line revenue. Always having financial arrangements readily available. I know that the majority of the offices that I am working with or that I come across do have these options. We just want to make sure that, especially in today's market, that we have the options available for our patients. And at the end of the day, just working smarter, not harder. We want to make sure our patients are getting healthy. We're getting everything done. We're maximizing revenue, and at the end of the day, we can high five each other and say, yes, this was awesome. Patients are happy. We're happy. So the additional procedures that we can add in with the Solea. So the sleep apnea, hot topic. I know that we have devices, we can do sleep studies, but the Solea, like Michael will show you in a few slides, will actually help with sleep apnea through the soft palate. He'll give you some more information, but you can laser the soft palate, and it's a really quick procedure. And I would say it's saving marriages. So if you think that $750 or $1,000 for this procedure to have done, once a year for maintenance, that a wife isn't going to say yes to that, or vice versa, so that they can now live in the same bedroom, I think you're crazy. So I know firsthand, I've walked through this, so it is absolutely priceless. So we get a lot of non-compliance with some of these devices. So having this option for patients is huge. Class 1 through 5 restorations, adding in 2 more per day. We're talking about no anesthesia, bringing the laser into the hygiene chair, 5 to 10 minute procedure, in and out, done. Now, the kids got the filling done, the mom got the filling done. We don't have to come back. We don't have to reschedule. At the end of the year, that's $60,000 in revenue. Same thing with soft tissue, frenectomy, ulcers, anything that's going on. Bring the laser in, 450, 1 per week. We're looking at $130,000 in revenue by the end of the year. And this is just stuff that we're looking at or stuff that we're referring out. So now we're keeping stuff in-house. We're keeping our patients, with us. I know our patients are good to go elsewhere, and we do need our specialists, but it's always great when we can keep things in-house and keep our patients, again, out of the dental office as much as possible, especially in the times we're in. So looking at those procedures, where do we find them? All of you are having a morning huddle, and Jim can do his morning huddle head bob. Yes. So yeah, the morning huddle, we have them, but do we have them consistently? Are we all on time? Is the doctor there? Because that's always fun when the team's there and then the doctor's not there. At the end of the day, the doctor is the leader, and we follow our leader, and we lead by example. So if it's important to the doctor, then it's important to the team, and it's important to the practice. So running an effective morning huddle is crucial to getting through your day and being able to identify what's going on in your schedule and in your practice. And this is where we can have the conversations to say, okay, Tarah's here. We talked about doing a filling last time. So let's see if we can get that done today in the hygiene chair. Do we have the space for it? If we have our unbooked operatory now plumbed and ready to go, yes, we can move Tarah over. Making sure that we have the space to do all of these things is obviously very important. But if we have the laser that we can bring into the rooms, and we're talking about reduced time, that's where this has become so effective, because we're taking 30-minute procedures and they're turning into 10, and we're able to get these things done with the laser. So again, looking at your schedule, asking patients if they've had issues with snoring, do they have sleep apnea? Those are questions that are pretty much in our medical history at this point now, because sleep apnea has become such a big, obviously it's very important, but it's become a very big topic in dentistry. So we should be having those conversations anyway. And then, making sure that whoever's on the schedule, family members, anybody that needed treatment, getting them in. So utilizing your huddle effectively and wisely to be able to target your patient base, and then also be able to market, this piece of technology. I'm going to flip it over to Michael, because I think that's my last slide, but I do just want to add in that, like I mentioned earlier, I've worked with a doctor that purchased the laser prior to COVID. And like he mentioned to me the other day, he's like, I didn't realize how much I was going to use it or need it until I had it. And then having it post-COVID has been such a huge benefit. It's like Jim said, it's not free. We don't give stuff away, but we did create codes in his software to be able to track the ROI. So if we did a filling, we overrode it with, a Solea resin, and then on the back end, it had the ADA code. So it was still going out on the claims, but we were able to track it firsthand on a practical level. And month over month, the laser pays for itself 4 times over. So he's using it so much more than he thought he was going to use it. He really purchased it because he did so well the year before. He needed to take advantage of his tax break. So he's like, I gotta buy something. And it ended up being such a great investment to his practice. This year being shut down 7 weeks, he will actually end this year up 27%. And so he's considering shutting down 7 weeks again next year, which at this point, he's like, yeah, why am I open all the time if I'm still going to end higher than I did last year? So again, it's a lot to look at from a macro level, but when you break it down in bite-sized pieces and you know your numbers and you know what's going on and you get a game plan, these types of investments are crucial to the success of your business and to the success of dentistry. This technology is amazing. Like I said, I've worked with it firsthand. So any questions, anything that you need to know after the presentation, please feel free to reach out. So I'll let Michael I'll get into all the nitty gritty and all the fun stuff.
Awesome. Tarah and Jim, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here, and I will jump right in. And again, I'm going to take a little deeper dive into Solea, but also at the end for some questions, certainly we'll take those. And then whatever ones we don't get to, I'm going to send Jim and Tarah some more information and some links for more educational things. You can look at clinical videos and so forth that will get you educated from some of our owners. So Solea at its highest level is an all-tissue CO2 laser. It's going to introduce an environment that you already heard of anesthesia-free, needle-free, and blood-free procedures. And I realize you've heard some of that already. It's somewhat of a bold statement, right? Lasers have been around for some time, and we put in there it works because it does deliver on what it says to the tune that we guarantee it, right? So some of the big picture things about Solea is efficiencies we'll talk about, new procedures, adding more to Tarah's point, soft tissue to the practice. And we talked to a lot of doctors over the years about their practice, and we'll speak about that briefly here. We want to get to know each person we talk to, what makes their practice go, goals, challenges, the type of patients they see, the type of dentistry they enjoy doing. And we hear a lot of different answers in terms of soft tissue. I do some, I send some out, I send it all out. We have diode lasers and scalpel and so forth. So I'm going to show you a clinical clip in a little bit, but we'll walk through how easy it is, how quick, bloodless, convenient for the patient with virtually no post-op sensitivity. The other thing that we talked about a little bit, Tarah mentioned, is sleep. So Solea will treat sleep, and we'll speak about that as well. But in terms of that family of adding new procedures, patient flow. One of the things I'm going to say a few times, and I apologize, we get a lot of information and feedback from our owners. And our owners tell us a lot of things, which is great for us because they're most important. But one of the things they tell us, because of that patient experience being so new and so unique, they see a pretty dramatic rise in new patients to their practice. Patients will certainly talk about their experience, and they tell others. And more times than not, we see our owners tell us a pretty large increase in new patients. Lastly, from a big picture perspective, is clinical outcomes, which is obviously very important to everybody in terms of anytime somebody invests in technology, and I've been in dental 25 years, making sure you can maintain your standard of care is important, right? So minimally invasive dentistry, rapid and predictable healing, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the time we have, but certainly there'll be more we can share with you as well. So going back to when we talk about talking to owners and talking to prospects about this, again, we ask about their practice, what's important to them, and what are their goals, and where are they, and what kind of technologies do they have in their practice? One thing that comes up more times than not, 80-90%, is the most important thing to me in my practice is my patients, which makes sense. So that's why I kind of started here. And it's been brought up a couple times, but Solea certainly can reinvent the way patients view going to the dentist. In terms of when you eliminate some of the things that some patients don't enjoy, if they had a choice of the needle and the drill and so forth, and going home after the appointment numb, we've talked to our owners, and some of our newer owners asked patients, if we could do it the old way, would you go back to the old way? And most times they say, no, I liked what I just experienced. And secondly, I mentioned this earlier, because word of mouth and that patient is having a unique experience and that practice is unique probably in the community, we've got some of our owners that tell us that some patients drive an hour and a half to their practice just because they're offering the needle-free and the experience, anesthesia-free and so forth. So that's part of the reason why they see patients doubling. And you can see some pictures there on the screen. And a lot of our owners do some, kind of cool things with their Facebook and Instagram and their website and so forth. When we speak about Solea, one of the areas we talked about was efficiency. That will take a few minutes, a couple of slides to talk about. And, Tarah and Jim mentioned some of this already, so I don't want to be too repetitive, but you're introducing, again, a situation where now you can work in all 4 quadrants, right, in one appointment, single visit, single day dentistry. And Tarah mentioned it when we talk about looking at the morning huddle and so forth, when look at who's coming in that day. Now, in a day where some folks, some of them folks, because of COVID, they'd rather have things done in one appointment. So now if you get a patient in hygiene, you could mention to the patient that we can go ahead and take care of that filling right now in probably about 10 minutes, and you probably won't feel a thing. And to the unbooked operatory, or you can go ahead and either bring the laser in or take him to another operatory, and that patient's been completely taken care of in one visit. Time savings, part of efficiencies. We talked to, again, a lot of our owners and prospects and dental professionals, and typically they tell us they do 7 to 10 injections a day. When you think about a little bit of the time savings with Solea, because you're not injecting and waiting for the anesthesia, that can mean over an hour, up to 80 minutes of time that is now available throughout the day to do more dentistry or to slow down and do other things or see another unique patient. So there's efficiencies that are born because of that as well. And lastly, we kind of talked about adding procedures as well in terms of flexibility and growth. We do a lot with our owners, and there's just an owner mentioning some of a productive day he had. He's from Denver somewhat recently, 22 surfaces, and some of the things he was doing with that. When we think about, again, efficiency and a workflow, we ask, we take a look at a subgingival class 5. And on the top is a workflow that may be familiar to folks on this call right now. And again, our owners give us a lot of feedback. But on top, you can see what it might look like today with a subgingival class 5 in multiple quadrants in terms of calming the patient down, injecting, waiting, all the way to reappointing, which may occur in some situations, working in multiple quadrants, depending on the situation. So again, that could take 40, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, or so forth. Down below, you can see Solea, because you're eliminating some steps, some efficiencies there, and taking that from 30, 40 minutes down to 15 minutes or so. And that's completely, again, to the point made earlier, it is a different experience for the patient. Many times, as a professional, you'll be done in 15 minutes, and the patient will even ask you if you started yet, because they virtually don't feel anything in the procedure. So if I can click, and this works, I'll click play on this video, and hopefully this works. You can go ahead and see the laser in action. And right now it's working on soft tissue. One thing about the laser, it's very easy to operate. It's just a rheostat foot pedal. Right now, the owner is putting light pressure on the foot pedal, which is low power. For soft tissue, you can see it right now. No blood, no charring, just shaping the tissue there. And then very quickly, when you want to move to hard tissue or taking some of that composite off first, all you do is a turn of the wrist. You press a little harder on the foot pedal. And as you can see, it's a little more energy going towards the tooth. And you can see how quickly it works. And again, keep in mind, this patient has not been anesthetized at all. So this clip's about 1 minute and 19 seconds, but just, I'll stop it and move on, but you can see how quickly you can get a lot of dentistry done in a short period of time. And again, that patient is very happy that you did it all in one appointment. And as it stops here, that's basically it. In the 3-day follow-up, you can see what that looks like after 3 days with very quick healing and very little post-operative sensitivity or anything in terms of the soft tissue. Here, just to show you a little bit of a soft tissue example, this is a frenectomy on a child. So certainly in pediatrics, this is relevant as well. But just to show you again, there are different ways of treating frenectomies. This is with Solea. Very quick. You can see virtually blood-free. And this, I think this clip takes about 10, 11 seconds, and that's it. And it's very little post-op sensitivity. You're not using a scalpel and so forth. And sometimes you can get a little charring and ripping when you're talking about a diode laser. So real briefly, Tarah had mentioned, and Jim also, in terms of adding new procedures, certainly there's a wide variety of different ways that practitioners are treating soft tissue. But again, if soft tissue presents itself, this is just a short list. There's a lot longer list of procedures that can be treated with Solea and soft tissue. The bottom line here is if you can add more procedures, keep more in-house, to Tarah's point. I highlighted there the frenectomy that takes literally 8 minutes. Gingivectomy is pictured there. It can be as little as 7 minutes. So these things are done very quickly, bloodless, there's no pain, and things that are now available to your practice if you so choose. One of the things, again, with efficiencies, it also ties into COVID and kind of the world we live in right now. There are certainly a little different workflow with Solea versus standard procedures now. But certainly with COVID in PPE, there's a different way you may or may not be treating patients. Bouncing in between operatories now sometimes is something that's hard to do, depending on the PPE and the things you're doing. So now, certainly from a cost perspective, but also workflow and a patient experience, you can get a lot of dentistry done in one appointment and not have to go back and forth between rooms and maybe remask up and reglove up and so forth. So again, it's just a little bit of a different experience. Lastly, on the COVID angle, so when everything happened this year and our world kind of got changed, we quickly wanted to do some research and get a baseline and figure out how Solea fits and where it's positioned in a COVID age, so to speak. So one of the things, and we had some intuitions, but we did a lot of studies and we have white papers and so forth. But Solea reduces splatter and aerosols by 97%. We are using less aerosol pressure and PSIs from air and less water than a high-speed handpiece. And we're also not redirecting water on a burr or a diamond that's spinning 400,000 RPMs. So that was good news, certainly for, I don't know if there's a video here or not, but it was very good news for, our owners. Were thankful that we did the research to check in. Some of them, quite honestly, have put it on their website, Instagram. So not only does it, make the patient feel comfortable, but it's also for the staff as well, that is something that's probably important to the staff. Well, let me click here. No, next slide. There we go. The next thing I wanted to cover, again, in the spirit of what Solea can do. About 3 or 4 months ago, Solea is a platform for a lot of different things now, but in the future, we were really excited to introduce, a sleep application about 4 months ago. And some people are like, well, that's a great time to launch something new. And in a way, it really was, because it does represent, to Tarah's point earlier, an expansion of services. Not only can you offer more and keep more patients in-house, it is a way to change lives. And it's actually a lot of fun. We've got some great feedback, and I have one post to show you next. But many of you already know probably, but 67% of adults snore. 80% of that number is a palatal snore, and simply stated, most snoring is caused by the vibration in the soft palate, causes a vibration in the uvula. Solea Sleep works to contract the collagen and open up the airway, simply stated. So it's basically one treatment, about 10 minutes, and it can vary in different parts of the country, but we have a lot of doctors that are doing it now and successful, charging $1,000, and some are down to in the $750 range, but they're getting great results from it. No intraoperative, post-operative pain. Once in a while, you could have a topical spray, but it's very quick. And if I could show the video, I should have done it while I was talking. But you can just see it's about 5 to 6 minutes worth of very low power lasing of the soft palate. And And again, it's targeting that collagen and tightening it up, thus opening the airway. So great results. When we speak about adding new patients to the practice, this is one way patients talk, right? Social circles, and Tarah talked about couples getting back together and all those different things. This has certainly been something a lot of our owners have said that has contributed to new patients and a buzz around their practice. And again, we see it in websites and online, and we've got some doing advertising and social media. So here's just, I won't bore you with all the details. We get a lot of different great comments. On the right, it says, my wife has worn earplugs for years. So we're getting a lot of comments like that. And the doctor talking about doing 20 treatments in his first 5 weeks. Big picture, these are things that we'd love to talk to you about in more detail offline as well. But if you treat just 2 patients per week, and you saw some of the numbers earlier from Tarah, it can mean well over $70,000 in incremental revenue to your practice with a very simple procedure that's literally changing lives. So the last slide or two here, going back to what Tarah said and Jim, it's not free, it's an investment. Feel good that every doctor that's purchased Solea certainly has asked us to walk them through the ROI and what it means to invest in Solea and be part of our family. And at the end of the day, we talk a lot about monthly payments, right? How can this investment be profitable monthly? I think Jim mentioned that as well. I'm talking about the Unbooked Operatory. And when we speak, we actually bring it down per day, right, of what the cost may be. And Tarah hit the nose in the head with an owner, and they tell us the same thing, that they 4 or 5 or 6 times passed their monthly payment in new revenue from sleep organically. And we said adding new procedures. We're not asking you guys to work longer days or hours. But when you eliminate the needle and the drill, you'll organically do more daily because you'll see soft tissue and you'll treat it. If you need to work in a second quadrant, you can go ahead and do that in a very short amount of time. So it's easier days, our owners say. It's less stressful from doing 10 injections. But feel good that we will walk through these things with you. But at the end, there's a lot of positives in that respect. Here's just a story from one of our doctors that speaks to new patients, right? I know, Henry Schein and 360 and all the things that Jim and Tarah do talk a lot about that, right? Attrition and adding new patients. This is one of our owners that saw his new patients go from 17 to 36 and 63 just because they offered a different experience. So the last slide I have here, and I want to thank you all for your time, and we'll open up with some questions after, is, we talked a lot about the experience with Solea, just offering something different at a time where it's been a different year for sure. We talked a lot about COVID and again, standing out in the community, offering something different. A lot of our owners say, and I put a bullet there, this technology in Solea, it will touch almost 90% or more of the patients that walk through your door. And that's part of the reason why they've been able to rebrand their practice or put that on their website or social media or whatever it may be, because now the expectation is there and they'll pick up that laser almost at every single patient and use it. So that's hopefully that was a deep enough dive, fairly topical. And again, we will I'll work with Jim and Tarah to send some things out to everybody who's attended in terms of a follow-up, which Schein does very well with some clinical videos and different things and success stories from some of our owners. So I will pause there, Jim and Tarah.
Thanks, Michael. Well done. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Tarah. Well done and well said to both of you. So, having just said that, Adam, we're open up for questions. And if anybody's got any, why fire away?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the presentation. We've got about 15 minutes left. So if anyone has questions, drop them into the Q&A or chat and we will get to them. The only question I have so far is in terms of PPE, is the Solea laser does the Solea laser still have plume?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a plume. That's basically because of the laser energy that's on the tooth. So it depends if you're working on enamel, how deep the enamel is. But there's certainly a little bit of a plume on there. But again, all the studies and research we've done, and we've done a lot, with too much to show, all takes into consideration those factors in terms of aerosols, the plume, which typically is not too bright. It depends how much energy you're using on the tooth and how, if you're using softer class 1 or class 3 and so forth. So there's a slight plume, but all the studies, again, with the aerosols and the virus and bacteria kill has been taking all that into effect. Yes.
Great. Well, that's all I got so far. Hopefully some more will come in, but Jim, Tarah, if you guys have any scenarios you want to share, or if you have frequently asked questions you want to share, feel free.
I do have a thought to this. Tarah mentioned PPOs in her presentation, and it is a huge, huge, huge issue. And I know I'm not saying anything that the dentists and office team members on this call don't know. But last year, 95+% of all plans that were sold to businesses were PPOs. And it is not uncommon for us to see anywhere from low end 20%, high end 40 to 45% write-off the doctor's full fee schedule. And when you look at that, it's also not uncommon for us to see a practice that produces top line $1 million a year and writes off $300,000 of that a year. Those are numbers that are painful to watch, painful to see, and very few offices track. But I would say this: we've seen more dentists coast to coast. To Tarah's point earlier, now thinking, what, do I need to be on as many as I was on before? Do I need to be working and running at that pace that I was before, taking those kinds of write-offs? The additional operatory to work in the other procedures, patient comfort, convenience for that, is certainly what you have here with the opportunity with the Soleo laser to be able to add those patients to the practice in that type of technology and that type of word of mouth within your communities. We just feel it's huge in terms of being able to think about assessing where you're at with the PPOs. You want to look at what percentage of your practice is tied to that, new patients coming in, your entire active patient base, and certainly the production tied to those PPOs. Which ones cause you the most write-off, and then which ones also cost the administrative team the most headaches, administrative hassles, and certainly, the difficulty in some patients from some of the PPOs. You assess it like that, and then you work in something like this laser, and I think you're going to find a nice adjunct to be able to attract more of the fee-for-service type of patients within the practice, increase your services, and patient comfort, convenience, number one, and then overall word of mouth. So kind of got down a little foxhole there on the PPOs, doctors, but it's one of the best tools you really have to be able to eliminate that down the road, or at least reduce them down the road.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I was just going to say, we get a lot of questions when we talk to people looking at it about PPOs, and they do take a lot of PPOs certainly now. And as you know, it's being profitable per hour, and the ability to do more dentistry in theory in one appointment, and also shorter appointment times, being able to see some more patients in a PPO environment has certainly been something that's been well accepted.
Great. And we did have another question. What is the bottom line cost for the laser?
Sure. So for a basic package, it's $115,000. And so that basically encompasses software, support, and a number of different things. Most of our owners, it's similar to a CEREC, and a lot of our owners own CEREC that own Solea. It can be as high as $140,000. And that encompasses everything, a full, coverage for 5 years in terms of there's not a lot. This is not a lot of hardware updates. If anything, it's a software driven. So any software updates and new applications are all, put in the system as well. So most of our customers are making that investment. And again, we go back to, as we talk to folks, we'll go through it by month. We'll put in your numbers. We actually have a model. We look at your practice. We'll put all your numbers in there, and we'll discuss it together and what it looks like. And again, going back to Tarah and what we said earlier with the doctor in Florida, it's usually very profitable. Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point for the doctors, the team members are on the call. That's about, if you're going to finance that over 5 years, before any tax benefits to it, it's about $2,900 a month. So to Tarah's point, if you start looking at your morning huddles, just the opportunities and the possibilities of adding that in the same day dentistry component of it, I think you probably realize that quickly how fast that would pay for it. And also too, very, very conservatively, a new patient in the practice is $800 to $1,000 production before they refer their family and friends, and that number is very conservative. Before they refer their family and friends. So if you started tracking the amount of patients that got referred because of the comfort and convenience of the laser, along with the additional procedures, you find it to be an incredible investment, into the practice in all the ways we've already talked about.
Yep.
And approximately how many different procedures can you perform with the laser?
I'm not sure I have the list in front of me. It's a lot. I could send something out. It's a double-sided piece of paper with every single thing. You could do a lot with it. So I don't want to be vague, but yeah, it's well over 100 for sure. You can do a lot. Yeah.
A really cool procedure that Mike had showed us last week was opening the healing cap for implants. Yeah, so now we're able to do that without having to actually, slice into the tissue, and there's no bleeding. I mean, that's huge for patient comfort. I mean, there's just so many things, and again, it's cutting down time. When you're looking at your production per hour, you're looking at, what am I doing in that time? We all should be looking at that, hygienists, doctors, everyone. But what am I bringing to this hour? And being able to decrease that chair time, increase patient comfort, and increasing acceptance. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a win-win, and it definitely having it chairside and having it in your office has been, at least for the doctor in Orlando, has been a huge asset, huge asset. So,
and in terms of CEREC, we have a lot of owners that own CEREC. From the flexibility, if you're troughing before you take a scan, they go in there with the laser very quickly, bloodless, just with the soft tissue, and you grab the scanner and go. It can take zirconia crowns off. You can actually apply energy to the zirconia crown if you ever needed to. It will crack and fracture the crown. You just pop the crown right off. So there's a lot of different things they could do in terms of. A lot of our owners do implants, to Tarah's point about uncovery instead of a punch.
Hey, Adam, I just saw on the chat come through that somebody would love to have a copy of the double-sided procedure list you talked about, Michael. I'm sure that Michael can get that to Adam. So, Adam, I'm sure we can probably just add it to this presentation, can't we? Probably.
Yeah, or we can send it out in the email in about a week with the recording. So everyone will get that then.
Yeah, sorry, whatever is easier for you.
I will send that out to you. And one of the things we always like to do, and like I said earlier, for anybody out there that's interested, it doesn't hurt to look. We sit down with our the dental professional like yourself, and we'll just ask you questions and find out about your practice. We have people all across the country that will in your communities, and we'll get to know you. And we have lasers in the field. We can, if it makes sense for you, to get your hands on it. So all those things are possible.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have. So I'd like to thank each of you for your insights tonight. And of course, thank everyone for attending the webinar. If you have questions about adding laser dentistry to your practice, please reach out to your Henry Schein representative, or feel free to email us at webinars@henryschein.com. Everyone in attendance tonight will receive a link to view the recording of the presentation in the coming week via email. In that email, we will also include various Solea literature and so forth for you to reference as well. On behalf of Henry Schein Dental Business Institute, thank you all for attending, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.